This is Last Call Reviews. We're talking about Richard Linklater's Boyhood.
Now we recorded this view over the span of 12
minutes.
12 minutes. So you're gonna see us age every minute as it goes along. Because we like to rely on gimmicks. Unlike Mr. Linklater, who didn't rely on a gimmick making this movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, Last Call Reviews. This was one. This kind of snuck up because we heard about this. Kinda.
Yeah, I heard about it.
I heard Linklater was working on a movie that he'd been shooting over a few years.
And then it was just like, Richard Linklater released this movie.
Yeah, and then
and then people were loving it.
Yeah, then it comes out and it's like masterpiece, and then you go, I mean, to get this out of the way, just to talk about, just to get this reception out of the way, this review, I don't want this to come off like a reflection of how I feel about the general opinion of this film, because this is one of the best reviewed movies of the last 10 to 20 years. This film has received unanimous praise. It's got 100 on Metacritic with 50. I mean, it's insane. Yeah. It's one of the most praised films ever, like of all time. So that gives it a lot of hype and expectation. I would warn people going into this film, just go into the film with your own self and open up to it. Don't go in thinking about that so much, because what the critics are talking about, the point they make, I don't think you're really going to understand it until you get to the end of the movie.
Yeah, it's I don't know, it never feels pretentious or anything. Like
No!
Warmest Color.
No!
Or some of those other movies that get that sort of praise.
Yeah, it's very simple. This film has very little story, like one overarching story. It's got a lot of story within sequences.
Yeah, it's a story-driven film, but the story itself isn't complex. It just plays out very naturally.
What's funny about it is that what Linklater does here is that he sets it up, and you're watching the movie, and it's just it's a decent coming-of-age film. You're watching this kid grow up, but the subtlety of it all, the nuance of it all, the aging, you don't really catch on to immediately. It's not until a few years pass that you start to catch yourself and go, wait, it's been like 6 years.
Yeah, it sneaks up on you.
It does. It's kind of a card trick that he plays very well. It's very clever in that way. The film never draws attention to itself in any way.
No, it doesn't say 1 year later.
No, it's just editing.
Like
It's a photo book, and you flip through and look at the photos, and as a collage as a whole, the photos mean something.
One thing that's interesting in the movie is that, it's filmed, 12, 13 years ago?
Yeah.
I think it was 5 to 18, so about...
I think it was 7 to 18 or something like that.
Yeah, I read today it was 5 to 18, I don't know.
They probably started prepping them or something.
But it's basically a 2000s film. The way it's filmed...
It is.
And
it's the
quality.
2000s film.
Yeah, in a lot of ways.
Well, I was trying to find a film for our generation, and we always talk about that you can't really make it because things just changed so much in the 2000s. We didn't really stick to one thing. This film, though, because of what Linklater does...
It changes with the 2000s.
It does. No, it changes subtly, kind of like the 2000s did. You didn't notice it a year later. Things were kind of different, yet the same.
Yeah.
That's the weird thing about the movie. It really reflects kind of the indifferent melancholy of the 2000s. How there was nothing major happening, but a lot of things changed as this time went on.
Well, that's one thing about the movie is that it's not gimmicky, because I don't think they could have made the film unless they did it the way they did, because of how the story progresses. They are all statements on the decade.
No, it's very clever. He'll film like a Wii, or have a girl singing a Britney Spears song.
Or the Obama sign.
Exactly, something that's going to be relevant years down the road.
Yeah.
To give the story a bit, it's this kid Mason, and he lives with his sister and his single mom.
Yeah.
And he's divorced parents and everything, which is very typical in our modern day, a lot of divorce. And his father's kind of there, not there. He's a fun party guy, man-child for sure.
Yeah, but he's
a good guy.
Yeah,
he has a good heart.
About his kids, actually, they never make him just to be like this black and white jerk off.
Well, what's beautiful about this movie is that because of the tone that Linklater creates, it I think is actually quite an original tone, because it's original only because of that 12-year thing, like you said.
Yeah.
It gives it kind of a feeling of naturalism, like a documentary. That most films don't have. Some foreign films have this, but in American cinema we don't see this typically. This reminded me of Yee or something like Blue's Warmest Color, film I'm not a fan of, but foreign cinema where they try to just show you a slice of real life.
Yeah.
Half Nelson's one film, American film that comes to mind like that. This is just that on a 3-hour scale with 12 years passing by.
Yeah.
It's slice of life, you know. It's
Yeah.
the biggest slice of life movie ever. And what really got to me was, basically this kid grows up, though, and you see him go through drunken stepfathers, you know, first kiss, beer, all that stuff.
Yeah.
To, his father. But what the characters, they develop subtly, like we said. It's a film of moments and memories. You know, it's memories that define you, that make you the person that you are, and that's kind of how the film's put together in that way. It's a moment of memories, and yet it's very well edited in that way.
Yeah.
There's coherence.
Yeah, I can't think of a single scene that needed to be edited out or anything along those lines. It was all very necessary for a 3-hour film.
It was.
It wasn't indulgent at all somehow.
I don't want to call it flawless, but I really can't pick it much because there's not bad scenes in the movie.
I think
There's one well-written, well-acted, well-directed scene
I think
after
that there's
another.
maybe minor setbacks, but as a whole, it's so well done that you don't even really notice them. You might think of something in a moment, and then you forget it in the next 5 minutes.
My only issue, and it's a minor complaint, really, because it doesn't affect the film's experience, I don't think Mason was a totally great character, and I think he's very... And I know Linklater kind of made him in a way to be kind of an avatar for the audience to project yourself into him. I think some people are going to be able to project themselves into more than others, because he's kind of a detached character in a lot of ways. I think the characters around him, his parents in particular, are they're much more the point of what the movie's saying. Particularly Patricia Arquette's character and what happens to her at the end.
I forgot she was going to be in this movie. And this is why I like Patricia Arquette.
She's going to win an Oscar, as far as I'm
should.
I mean, this is her career-defining performance. This is the one we've been waiting for.
No, it's insane.
I mean, this is as complex and as real as a woman as I've seen in modern cinema.
What's great about the film is that Linklater never approached like a filmmaker where he has to Hollywood things up.
No.
But the actors also don't approach it as actors.
No.
They just live in the scenes.
And I don't know how she was able to stay so consistent with a character for 12 years and never really betray that character's sensibilities. Or Ethan Hawke, for that matter, who by the end of this film gives wonderful advice and
he really matures too, which is interesting to see.
I think what's great about this is Linklater really showed kind of how men became these man-child today, and modern women have really come a long way and are kind of, you know, taking a big step further in society. And it's a really positive thing that he made this film to show a lot of the differences between men and women, you know, in modern America, in
also
modern times.
a divorced household.
Yeah.
And how that affects family, how it affects a kid seeing his mother with a different man.
And he doesn't turn it into a message, he just shows it to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, I don't know, it's strange. It's almost like you're watching a family.
Yeah.
Not a film. It's like emotional snuff or something.
And you really get to know this family. It's like you get to see the things that people don't get to see when you hang out with a family a lot. It's being around them who they really are, not a Hollywood version of like, look how interesting these people are all the time. They're not all.
They're very typical in many ways. It's just that
that's
why it's nuance.
That's why I give Mason some leeway, because he is very normal. That may be a problem, but then I kept thinking like, well, that doesn't defeat what the movie's doing, what it says about life. Like, he has to kind of be that way so he can learn to become someone else as he grows up. And this film's showing you those moments.
That's the message of the movie, ultimately.
Well, it just shows you that adulthood, ultimately, it takes a long time to figure things out. Nobody ever really figures anything out.
And it shows it through generations, despite always being focused on Mason.
And you always hope that your kids are going to not make the same mistakes you did, and you lead them on into adulthood, and you try to help them for the betterment of just society. And that's what makes this epic. This is truly an epic, like tone poem, but it's so intimate the entire time. It's 3 hours of intimacy and little scenes, quiet scenes. You know, there's really no conflict except I'd say twice in the movie. There's two characters that are conflicted.
Yeah, it's really just the struggle of
life.
Yeah, just to keep going.
Yeah, getting up. That life.
Very simple and in a refreshing way. It doesn't have some big, it doesn't have super shredder in it, or you know, any bounty hunters hunting down the Boyhood or anything.
I think that's what makes it profound, is that it is just showing you that living is a story.
Yeah.
You know, you have a narrative in your life and you have to get to the end of it, and it's hard. It's not an easy story to get through. And there's things that you just think back to a day or something someone said to you or a moment that happened that just kind of affected you in a profound level and you didn't know how. And that's really what Mason's going through. And I don't know. I to talk about it more, but really it'd be spoilers or to...
Yeah, there's a lot of plot stuff I would talk about. It's obviously a 3-hour movie.
Yeah, there's a lot of
Actually,
habits.
one thing I read today, this film's the exact same runtime as Transformers 4.
A film about absolutely nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
That has so much going on.
It's horrible how much this film accomplishes compared to how little that strives to accomplish. And unfortunately, that's the film that gets a wide release and makes the $1 billion.
Linklater shot this on $200,000 a year for a week, every year for 12 years. It's like a $2.5 million film or something, right? I mean, this is art. This is real art. This is real storytelling. Mm-hmm. This is like writing a novel and being patient with it. He didn't push this. He didn't think about money. People can talk about it being a gimmick. What's beautiful about Boyhood is that it's ultimately the antithesis of gimmickry.
Yeah, it's very vulnerable.
Yeah, it's open. He opens his soul. No,
like gimmicks do.
He does hear what he did with the Before trilogy and with Dazed and Confused and Slacker, what we've seen before.
Yeah, it was interesting how the film begins very
Waking Life too.
Innocent kind of with the son, and then it becomes more like Dazed and Confused as he gets older. I picked up on that.
Typical Linklater, first year philosophy student talk type stuff, you know.
Hawke.
Yeah, young Austin liberal stuff. It's a lot of typical Linklaterisms. What makes this different though from his other films is that 12-year thing. It gives it, like I said, an original tone.
Yeah.
I've never really seen a movie. I've seen a movie like this.
There's the 7-Up movies.
Yeah, exactly. But the feeling of this movie, watching it,
the fact that it's not a documentary.
Well, you know what I was thinking about that it really reminded me of? It really accomplished the same goal. I just think this one does a lot better. This is exactly what Curious Case of Benjamin Button was if you reversed it. It's the same thing. It has the same message where you see Brad Pitt in that movie start as a kid, but he's old, and then go backwards. And then ultimately what he says is, look at all the pictures in life, and these are the moments that define you. And he's a very Avatar-like character. That film had a lot of style and really focused on that message.
Yeah.
David Fincher luckily nuanced a lot of that pushing.
Yeah, the screenwriting though was very direct about its
message. Yeah. This has that exact same message and tone of that kind of storytelling. What's different here is Linklater's so subtle with it that it kind of sneaks up on you.
Yeah.
And it's one of the only films I've seen in a long time where at the end, that's when it really hits you. It's really not till the third act that it all kind of comes together and you're like, fuck. Like it becomes, there's just 2 or 3 scenes in the last 30 minutes between main characters, you know, especially the one with the mother.
Yeah, it really,
it makes the whole film heavy. It makes you realize how epic it was.
Where it really gets you is how the characters each change over the years.
Mm-hmm.
When you see the father character and he's younger, he's kind of a cool dad type, but he's a, he's an absent father. But then you see him, he's actually a family man now. They all take these turns, the characters that you may not expect, but are very natural.
It's just beautiful because anything you can fault in this film, you really can't because it's too real. Like he has a sister character in this, and she's so realistic as a sister and older sibling that if you didn't like her character, I couldn't take that as a valid criticism because it's a realistic thing. That he kind of avoids flawing his film.
Yeah, you can't really even approach it as a film. Really, not in the same way you approach most movies.
It's an experience.
Yeah.
First, and I have minor quibbles, but they're not worth going into.
Well, it's weird because I could remember having some last night. We watched it, but this morning I can't remember a single one.
No, it's weird. The more I think about it, the more I like this movie.
I agree.
When I was watching it, I was really enjoying it, and then at the end I was like, oh, that was great. It was a great movie.
Yeah.
But then I got up today and I couldn't stop thinking about it. It kind of drove me nuts. Like I was like, I'm going to watch that again. I got kind of obsessed with it.
No, I actually wanted to watch it again too. It was probably the first film this year I wanted to watch again immediately.
Yeah, I think Days of Future Past was the only film I saw this year that really kind of hit me in the same way. And I know that's a weird comparison, but where it's like...
It's a big time span over both the X-Men.
Yeah. It just builds something emotional with real characterization. That's what X-Men did. This does that same thing. It's just a different kind of movie. But Linklater this is a very accomplished piece of work. I can't emphasize that enough.
Yeah.
It's a triumph in independent filmmaking. It's a triumph of artistry.
Yeah.
And commentary, social commentary.
Is arguably Linklater's best film, which is an accomplishment in itself.
No, I'm not going to say it's his most entertaining film. I think you could watch Dazed and Confused more, but I know what you mean. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of accomplishments.
Yes.
That feeling of epic. it does feel like that one for him.
Yeah, I'm thinking some Oscars are going to be coming his way in the next year or two.
And
but
they're well deserved.
Do we want to go into last call? What's your?
My last bet is tough because I'm between two grades.
Yeah, I figured. I know what I'm giving it, but
yeah, for me it's between an A and an A plus.
Yeah.
I don't want to give it an A plus, but I have no reason not to.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like it'd be a little bit presumptuous to give it that at this point.
Yeah.
But I think as an experience, it is an A plus film. It's just it's not flawless.
Mm-hmm. I'm giving it a really solid A. I thought about that too. I don't think it's an A plus because I don't think it's perfect.
But it's right there.
Yes, it's not seamless. It's not quite a great movie. It's just a fucking good movie for 3 hours that is great as an experience as a whole.
Exactly.
It's a really great film it's a great good movie, you know? And that means something. It really does.
Yeah.
And you know, it's an A. I mean, that's a high rating. It's an A. It's one of the best films of the year so far. It's definitely probably going to be on my top 10 at the end of the year. I'd be surprised, and I want to watch it again.
Yeah.
You know, a couple times even. I want to go back.
Probably before the end of the year.
Yeah. No. Well, that's what hit me is when you get to the end, you really do. I got to give that. You might be bored. You might question what you're watching. Stay to the end.
Yeah.
It really let it end. It'll hit you then. I promise. It really does.
And it may not be the last scene, but by the end of the movie itself,
it's an emotional wave of like you realize the scope of it all, and it's kind of like, oh god. And recently, not to connect this, but recently, with the death of Robin Williams and depression, and I was thinking a lot about fame and darkness and kind of life and everything. This just deals with just real people, and it shows you the beauty in life and the negative sides.
And how you have to just kind of accept it all.
Yeah, and it helped me kind of cope with that in a way. I can't really say it, but it's a nice. It's very therapeutic. The film. It's very cathartic in that way, and I give Linklater a lot of respect for maturing into that kind of person, to not come in with biased.
Yeah, I mean he's a very sad director, but he seems to have stripped that all away at this point.
No, this is pure. This is pure cinema.